The morning I found 30 luxury tents glowing in my soybean field, I thought I was having a stroke. There were string lights hanging from my fence posts, a portable stage beside my irrigation ditch, and a woman in white linen trying to lead a breathing exercise while one of my steers stared at her like he was reconsidering humanity. Then I saw the sign, Willow Creek Wellness Weekend, reclaiming our connection to the land. My land. I stood there in muddy boots, holding a mug of coffee, wondering how a group of strangers had crossed a locked gate, driven half a dozen SUVs through my pasture, and somehow convinced themselves they were the victims of modern civilization. My name is Calvin Mercer. I'm 58, and my family has farmed outside Cedar Grove, Tennessee, for 3 generations. I'm not rich. I'm not polished. I don't belong to a country club, and I don't know the difference between Pilates and yoga unless somebody falls over. But I know exactly where my property line is. That morning, apparently, nobody else did. I drove my pickup down toward the tents and found the woman running the whole circus. Her name was Monica Vale, president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, a subdivision about 2 miles east of my farm. She had a clipboard tucked under one arm and sunglasses big enough to block satellite signals. She looked at me and said, "Excuse me, are you the groundskeeper?" I actually looked behind myself. The what? The groundskeeper. We need those cattle moved before the sunrise sound bath. I said, "Lady, those cattle live here." She gave me a patient little smile, the kind people use when they're explaining a menu to a child. We were told this section of open land was unused. Unused? I pointed toward the soybeans. Those are crops. She shrugged. Well, agricultural use is still open space use. That was my first clue I was dealing with a professional idiot. I told her the field was private property, the gate had been locked, and every person standing there was trespassing. She pulled a folded county map from her clipboard and tapped it with one manicured finger. Our community has historical access to this green corridor. No, you don't. Our legal committee says otherwise. Your legal committee climbed a locked gate. Her smile disappeared. Mr. Mercer, Mr. Mercer, there's no reason to be hostile. I laughed once. You built a smoothie bar next to my hay shed. I called the county sheriff. Deputy Ray Collins came out, walked the field, looked at the tents, then looked at me. Calvin, how in God's name did this happen? You tell me. That evening, I watched them turn my pasture into a boutique music festival. Lanterns, acoustic guitar, herbal tea. Somebody projected a documentary about sustainable agriculture onto the side of my equipment shed without asking the actual farmer standing 50 yards away. Then Monica got on the little stage. I could hear her through the microphone. For too long, private ownership has separated people from the earth. That sentence did it. My grandfather bought that farm after coming home from Korea. My father nearly lost it during the farm crisis. I spent 34 years waking up before daylight to keep it alive. And this woman, who'd been on my property less than 12 hours, was giving a speech about people like me keeping others from the earth. I walked into the equipment shed and looked at an old liquid fertilizer rig we called Marlene. Marlene was ugly, loud, and built back when machinery didn't care about your feelings. My neighbor Wes came over around 10. He listened to my plan, stared at me for 5 seconds, then asked, "You got an extra pair of goggles?" By midnight, the retreat had started what their schedule called a silent moon grounding ceremony. That's when Marlene rolled out. I drove slowly along the edge of the field, while inside my own crop rows, opened the irrigation fertilizer spray line, and let that ancient machine do exactly what it had been designed to do. The first arc of brown liquid sailed across the soybean rows. Then the wind shifted. Chaos. Somebody screamed, "What is that?" Wes yelled, "Organic agriculture." People ran for their tents. A man wearing white pants slipped so hard his sandal flew 10 feet. 2 women dragged a basket of essential oils like they were rescuing children from a burning house. Monica came charging toward the tractor, waving her clipboard. "You psychopath! Stop this right now." I shut the valve. She was splattered from shoulder to ankle. I said, "I'm fertilizing my field. You did this on purpose. You were warned to leave. I will own this farm when I'm done with you." That line mattered, because until then, I was angry. After that, I got careful. The sheriff came back later that night. I showed him the posted warnings, the security footage, the broken lock, the disconnected fence, and the video of Monica refusing to leave. The retreat ended before sunrise. But Monica wasn't finished. For days later, I got served. She and 5 HOA members sued me for property damage, emotional distress, ruined equipment, and what one paragraph actually called deliberate exposure to agricultural contaminants. My lawyer, Denise Harland, read the complaint in silence. Then she looked over her glasses. Please tell me you did not chase anyone with the sprayer. I stayed in my field. Good. She watched the security footage twice. Then she smiled. They picked the wrong farmer. While Denise prepared the defense, I started pulling old surveys, access records, and boundary maps. I wanted every inch of that property documented. That's when we found something nobody expected. Monica owned a weekend cottage behind Willow Creek. According to the current HOA map, her backyard ended at a decorative stone wall. According to the original county survey, that wall was wrong. Very wrong. Her patio, gazebo, fire pit, and half of her garden extended almost 22 feet onto a narrow strip of land that legally belonged to my farm. I called Denise. She came over, spread the survey across my kitchen table, and traced the line with a pen. Calvin, unless this survey has been superseded, Monica built her backyard on your property. I stared at the paper. Then I started laughing. Not because it was funny, because sometimes life writes better revenge than you ever could. We filed a boundary claim the next morning. Monica received the notice during an HOA board meeting. By lunchtime, my phone had 6 missed calls. Her 7th call went to voicemail. You are harassing me. You are abusing the legal system. You are trying to intimidate a woman who stood up to you. I saved the message. Then I called a licensed surveyor. Bright orange stakes went up 2 days later. Monica came outside while we were working. You cannot put those there. The surveyor didn't even look up. Ma'am, I'm putting them exactly where the deed says. She pointed at me. This is retaliation. I said, no, Monica. This is a property line. Court day arrived 2 weeks later. Monica walked in carrying 3 binders and wearing the expression of somebody who expected the room to apologize for existing. I wore a clean blue shirt and the only tie I own. Her attorney talked about humiliation, destroyed personal property, and reckless conduct. Denise talked about trespass. Then she played the video. Monica climbing through my gate. Monica being told to leave. Monica refusing. Monica's volunteers disconnecting my fence. Monica saying, we're staying through Sunday whether you like it or not. The judge looked at her. Did you have written permission from Mr. Mercer to occupy his property? Monica leaned toward the microphone. We believe community access rights applied. That's not what I asked. Silence. No. The judge dismissed the bulk of their claims. Then he turned to Denise. And there is a separate boundary action pending? Yes, Your Honor. Monica closed her eyes. That was the first moment I saw it. Not anger. Fear. Because she finally understood the difference between controlling a neighborhood meeting and controlling reality. Outside the courthouse, she cornered me near the steps. You think you've won? I said. I think you should learn where your yard ends. Within a month, she lost her position as HOA president. That part wasn't my doing. Her own neighbors were tired of her. Tired of fines over mailbox colors. Tired of threatening letters over grass height. Tired of being treated like tenants in homes they owned. Then Monica made her next move. She hired a videographer and started posting online about rural intimidation. She called me a bully, a land hoarder, a symbol of unchecked property privilege. And for a few days, people believed her. That bothered me more than the lawsuit. Not because strangers thought badly of me. Because I realized Monica was doing what she'd always done. If the facts didn't give her power, she'd rewrite the story until they did. So I stopped being quiet. My niece Kara helped me post the security footage, the survey documents, and the trespass warnings online. No dramatic music. No insults. Just dates, video, documents, and one title. What actually happened in my field? It took off. Local news called. Farming pages shared it. Former HOA members spoke up publicly. And suddenly Monica's version of events started collapsing under the weight of receipts. 6 months later, Willow Creek changed its board rules and repealed several of its most abusive fine policies. I never joined the board. I didn't want power. I wanted boundaries. That's the part people misunderstand when they hear this story. They think the victory was the fertilizer. It wasn't. That was anger. Messy, risky anger. The real victory came later, When I stopped letting somebody else's confidence make me doubt what I knew was true. My land was mine. No amount of paperwork theater, social pressure, expensive vocabulary, or self-righteous speeches changed that. And Monica? She eventually sold the cottage. The boundary case settled before trial. She removed the structures that crossed onto my property and paid part of the surveying costs. I haven't spoken to her since. But every now and then, somebody asks me whether I regret what happened that night. And the answer is complicated. Do I regret standing my ground? No. Do I think spraying fertilizer while angry was the smartest possible move? Probably not. That's why I'm curious what you think. If strangers broke onto land your family had worked for generations, ignored your warnings, damaged your property, then threatened to take you down when you resisted, how far would you go? Was I defending what was mine, or did I cross a line the moment I decided to fight humiliation with humiliation? And maybe the bigger question is this. Why do we so often mistake confidence for authority, especially when the person being pushed around is quiet, older, working class, or easy to underestimate? Tell me where you stand in the comments. Who was wrong here? Monica, me, both of us? And if you've ever watched someone abuse a little bit of power because they assumed nobody would challenge them, tell that story too. Because sometimes justice comes from a courtroom, sometimes it comes from a camera, and sometimes it starts with finally saying, no, you don't get to do this to me.